Hello and welcome to the Threads of Wisdom podcast. I want to give you a short intro so you know why we're here. As a catalyst and executive coach for Christian women in leadership, I've been studying Christian women in leadership for the past 21 years. And there are three gaps I see that I believe this podcast will fill. Number one, Christian women leaders and women who work are not mentored. Number two, they are not affirmed in their calling or their work or the position that they're in. And number three, the wisdom of Christian women in leadership is not being passed down to the next generations and current generations. And so that's what this podcast seeks to do. What you'll get from this podcast is a little different than other podcasts. You will hear the real stories of Christian women in leadership, mostly in the marketplace. Number two, you'll get real wisdom and advice on how to integrate faith at work and how they do it and what they do. And I hope that that's beneficial to you. The last thing is, at the end of each episode, we're going to challenge you to take one or two pieces of what you heard, wisdom, and actively apply it in your leadership, in your management, in your work. So that's it. I hope you'll dive in with us. God bless the work of your hands. Welcome to the Threads of Wisdom podcast. Really excited to have a woman of God with us, Kim Wygle, who is the owner of Flourish Executive Retreats. Thank you so much, Kim, for being with us today.
Absolutely, Caroline. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk with y'all today.
I'm super excited to talk with you because you are a woman of calling, and we're going to focus a lot on that in this interview today. But tell us about yourself and your professional journey.
Gosh, so I live in Ponte Vedra Beach with a cat, a dog, and a husband. And my professional journey, gosh, I must say, I never intended to own a retreat company. So let's start with that. It's amazing to me how women who are answering God's call just find themselves in very unexpected, remarkable places. So I am the owner of Flourish Executive Retreats, and full confession, when the Lord laid this on my heart, I said to him, I am sure someone is already doing this. And spent the next 2 weeks scouring the internet, certain I would find it. And the truth of the matter is, I found a lot of retreats for women and even for executives. Some were leadership retreats with a half day off. Others were retreats for women that were a lot of yoga, a lot of food and travel. Nothing wrong with any of that, but a week of that immersion. And others were like, hey, you can retreat here and come bunk up and cook your own food. And I was like, absolutely not. So 2 weeks in, I said, okay, I can't find what I'm thinking about for kingdom-minded female executives to retreat. And God is so patient and gracious. And I know that's why I've asked you to do this. So that became the journey of Flourish Executive Retreats, which is actually, these are retreats for kingdom-minded female executives. This is a place to rest, refuel, refocus, so that we can flourish in faithfulness and fulfill our calling. That is the point of the retreats. So that's how I came to be where I am.
What's your professional background?
You know, it's interesting. I kind of call myself a professional mutt, if you will. I actually started in the corporate world 100 years ago and was in HR and staffing for 15 years. I then owned a marketing company with my husband for 10 years, then went on to serve on the executive team of a mega church for 5 years. Yeah, so it's an interesting journey, always surprising where the Lord takes you when you put your yes on the table.
Amen. How do you define calling?
This is a great question. You know, I believe that all believers are called to advance the gospel. That's kind of our overarching generic calling. But I do believe that when you hear from the Lord and He gives you a specific task, a specific instruction, that is a personal calling. And it's always going to involve your strengths, your talents, your personality, how He designed you, because He's going to position you in a way to use all of those things to advance the kingdom, but in a very personal way, as you personally contribute to that via all those things.
So is what you do now a calling?
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I think that I really come to the Lord and say, what is it that you would like me to do? And I need you to be, I say to him, I need you to be really specific. I need the neon sign. Don't be subtle, just lay it out. So I think that it is absolutely a calling, and it's something that is unexpected, but I'm absolutely called. And my question to him is always, what field are you calling me to? What field now do you want me to work? And that's really what I need to know more than anything, more than how I'm going to do it, when it's going to happen, what the fruit's going to look like. Where do
Right.
you want me to go to lay my hands and my heart and my brain to the work? So that's to me how you discern a calling, if you will.
How did you know the calling?
It's a great question. I believe the only way you can figure out what the calling is to spend a lot of time talking with the Lord about it and really asking Him to reveal to you, where do you want me to go? What is it that you want me to do? And I think that the clarification for me has always been preceded by months of prayer. And hey, I wish it was just over a cup of coffee one morning or bouncing through a drive-through and it lands on me. I see Coke and this is it. This is what I want to do. And God speaks in a crazy, amazing way. So that may be it for you. However, for me, months of prayer. And the other thing is I keep asking him, and I have to be willing to wait on his timing for that, because patience is not one of my virtues. I've learned from experience, if you aren't willing to wait and you rush ahead into the calling you want, or the calling you're creating, or the calling that you're assuming, it's not going to go well. I've run ahead of God enough times to know, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, don't do that. It's not going to go well. You're not saving time. So the willingness to wait on his timing, and once you discover it, it's so amazing. You can literally look back and look at your experience and say, wow, everything God has led me through has led me here. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's one of the ways you can affirm, hey, is this actually a calling? He's really led you to this place if you take a moment and look.
So Dr. Gene Herndon, who is one of my professors and the man who started the seminary I attend, Life Point Christian University, says this: the distance between call and separation is preparation. So just because you have found a need, or the Lord has talked to you or called you into your calling, doesn't mean you're to run off and do it immediately. There is a time of preparation that comes. And I think this, including myself, this is where most of us get it wrong. We see a need, we look at our gifts and go, oh, okay, this is my calling. And we go before we're sent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I think that it's hard, because high capacity leaders, women, we can do a lot of things. And
yes.
Many a time have I, exactly what you said, Caroline, I've looked at something and said, well, I can do that. The question is not, can you do that? It's, should you do that? And that's a very different thing.
That is my mantra, my friend. That is my mantra.
Yeah. Me and you both. I've learned the hard way.
What are some misconceptions about calling?
There's several that have come to my mind. One of them is, discerning a calling. It isn't going to be something you necessarily expect. It's not going to be like, well, I've got a degree in this, or I've got experience in this, so surely it'll be in this lane. Or surely, often I think it's going to be unexpected what the Lord will call you to. When I'm trying to discern a calling, I'm really just asking for Him to show me the field you want me to work in. And to open my mind and open to my heart that it's actually probably not going to be what I thought it would be, or maybe hoped it would be. And it's certainly not going to be what I feel qualified to do. I'll have some background in it or some experience or something. But one of the things that I've found is that if you're feeling called to something that's expected, makes perfect sense, and you feel 100% capable to do it, that's probably a little red flag. That might be you and not the Lord, because the Lord's going to call you to something that's going to require your continual dependence on Him. If you feel like, I got this, it may not be it. So I would say just continue to pray about that and ask Him to show you, because again, high capacity leaders, we can come up with plans really quickly in half a second. I can do that. I'll give you the strategy, the tactics. Let's roll. And we have to really guard against that we really wait on the Lord to reveal this is what it's going to be. And it's unexpected and it's going to be a little scary on the front end. So that's one thing is it's probably not going to be what you expect. And it's not going to be something you can do without him. Another misconception that I have experienced, I have found sometimes it's a really windy journey. It's not direct in a straight line. Right before I founded Flourish Executive Retreats, I felt God calling me in a very different direction. And I began to move down that road, found myself on a second interview with an organization. And 5 minutes into that second interview, he just shut the door.
Hmm.
And on the one hand, it was really disappointing because I thought, gosh, Lord, this just makes sense. And I have a heart for this. And I can see this is how you'd want me, where you'd want me to serve. But as I look back, I thought, gosh, it was disappointing on one level. But on the other side of that, I thought, wow, how kind is the Lord to shut that door and show that you actually wouldn't be a great fit here because I don't ever have to wonder what if. I feel like it was his kindness that gave me that clarity to say, no, this isn't where I want you. Now, did I misread him and go down that road? Possible. Did he lead me down that road just to shut that door so that I didn't ever have to wonder, well, what about that thing that I never got to try? So I would say it could be windy, but speed isn't the goal. It's being perfectly placed to do the sacred work
It
of
could
your
have also
calling.
been a test of faithfulness.
It could have been because that would have been something I could have done. And quite honestly, it's a great point,
Yeah.
Caroline. I would have felt confident and capable in that arena. So, yeah, the other thing I will say is a misconception is it's going to be hard and glorious. It just is. That is ministry. That is your calling. That's the life. And there's going to be days where you're going to be like, I don't know, Lord, I can't do this. And he's like, I know. That's how we're going to stay in the mix together. And there's other days you're going to be like, this is so glorious. I'm seeing God work in such a mighty way. I feel like I'm sitting on the banks of the Red Sea. And who am
Mm.
I that God would include me in this? So it's going to be both. So expect that.
Amen. Good stuff. Okay, so we're going to shift into leadership and your advice, etc. What is your leadership style or philosophy?
I would say for me, the most important thing, really the only thing for me when I'm leading is I am there to support and do everything I can to make sure the people that are following me fulfill their calling. So I am there to encourage. I am there to hold accountable. I am there to provide if they need hard skills like training or whatever the lids are for my people. I'm there to help them lift that because if we can all grab hold of that calling together, we're going to move that ball down the field. And we're going to get to the goal. But sometimes I think we get it backwards and the goal or the results become the focus. And it's actually the people. I always very, I don't even know the word. When we get to see the Lord face to face, he's not going to ask us about the results. He's going to ask us, what did you do with the people that I entrusted to you? And I think it's very
Mm.
hard as high capacity leaders because we are get it done girls. And I love that about us. But I have in my life gotten that backwards. And sometimes that's become more the goal than the people that I'm shepherding and leading. And the great thing is, if you just lead those people to their callings and to fulfill that, the results take care of themselves.
Who influenced your leadership most over the years?
Gosh, I'm going to date myself here. I'm going to go way, way back. There was a women's conference 1,000 years ago called Women of Faith, and it had some
Mm.
remarkable female leaders. And one of them, her name was Lucy Swindoll. She's since passed. She's hanging out with Jesus now, causing a ruckus in heaven. She's sassy and fun and brilliant and all the things. And I just remember as a young professional, just reading her books and listening to her and leaning in. She was actually, when it was not done, a female executive for Mobil Oil, which now Exxon, never married. She was very clear on her calling to go and do what the Lord had asked her to do. And it was didn't worry about that. She was different than other people, but the way she did that and then called to a life of a speaker, which she had never planned on doing that. She was an executive. And so that's one that came to mind. Beth Moore is another one. That girl can sling the gospel like nobody I've ever heard or seen. And I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, just years and years of her studies, her conferences, her And I love her authenticity of the hard, horrific seasons she's gone through. I just read
Mhm.
her autobiography a year or so ago, and I just thought, wow, it's that hard and glorious life that she's so bravely allows us to see behind the curtain
Mhm.
of everything from childhood abuse to marital huge difficulties. So yeah, I would say those two. And then a modern day pioneer, Katie Cole. I mean, she is someone who is a trailblazer and was a church executive early on and is just a huge advocate for women just trying to take hold of their calling and just pursuing Jesus and all of the crazy that comes with that. So those are three that came to mind that have really influenced my life greatly.
I love that you mentioned all women because for me, Christian women in leadership are often not mentored by
Mm,
other Christian women in leadership or professional women. And it breaks my heart, which is one of the reasons why I think the Lord had me start this podcast
mhm.
so that women could be mentored by hearing you and hearing your wisdom and applying it into their work, management, and leadership. What do you do now to develop your leadership?
This is going to sound kind of churchy, and I don't mean it that way, but I've realized over the years as I've tried many ways to do that, some successful, some not. The number one thing to do is truly abide with the Lord, which again, I'm sorry that sounds churchy, but what I mean by that is go with the Lord every day because He actually knows He's the best leader ever. We're still following 2,000 years later globally with His mighty band of 12 people and no strategic plan that made sense to us. Abide with Him so that He can show you how you're doing as a leader, where you need to grow as a leader, where you're doing well as a leader. Think that staying in step with Him, I think we can also get that out of order. I love a good leadership book and read them, but that is not the answer. Information is not going to be the answer to grow you to be
Right.
a better leader. It actually
That's right.
comes from God's sanctification of you, His development of your gifts as you lean into that. And I would also say there are what I call three sets of women. And this is kind of also related to younger women and what they might want to be considering or what they may want to do as young leaders. There's really three sets of women that I believe are important to any leader. One is who is God calling you to encourage and pour into, that it's behind you on the leadership journey and connecting with them regularly. I would say the other one is finding a peer that has the same heart that you do, good chemistry, you connect, encouraging them and holding them accountable, but also allowing them to do that for you. And then the last would be asking the Lord to send me a woman who is farther down the road than me, someone who I can lean into her biblical counsel, that I can be authentic with, that can give me some encouragement and also a tap tap when I need it of, hey, let's talk about that. So I think those three layers of women in your life are important parts of growing as a leader. They'll deepen your faith. If you do all three of those things, it deepens your faith and it expands your leadership ability and influence.
And deepens your character. There is
Hmm.
a difference in leadership between what you're doing as a leader and who you're being. And I found over decades of working with Christian women in leadership that the being is more important,
Hmm. Yeah, no
the
question about
character.
that. Uh-huh. No question. I wish I had known if I looked back to my younger self, I would love to say your identity as a daughter of the king is not should precede your activity, not the other way around. My value lies in whose I am, not what I do. And that's something that even now I can find myself struggling with that, not as mightily as I did decades ago, but that is one of those things that it really is who you are that the Lord is most interested in. It is not what you're doing. He's going to work through that, but don't get those backwards. Your value is not in what you're producing or what you're doing. It's in who you are and how you're doing it matters. I think I get concerned sometimes that in the name of kingdom advancement or getting to that goal, I don't want to dismiss. I think how we do things, meaning how we treat people and conduct ourselves, matters a lot.
What do most women or Christian women get wrong about leading?
Gosh, I think it's the idea that you've got to do it all and not only do it all, but do it all in an Instagram worthy fashion. The job, the house, the kids, the vacays, the holiday. Like I think that it's a productivity mindset And I think that we just need to be reminded that God just is looking for your faithfulness, not your fruitfulness. His job is to bring the fruit. Your job is to be faithful. And what I mean by that is do what he asks you to do. Like I challenge everyone, including myself, look at your calendar and are you really brave enough to ask yourself, what is on here that he's asking me to do versus what I think I should do, or maybe some FOMO that if I don't do it, I'm going to miss out. So I think faithfulness is the key and give yourself permission just to be faithful. And it's really, there's freedom in that. The fruit's up to him.
Amen. Faithfulness and obedience.
Hmm.
I think it's hard sometimes to put our ego or pride aside to do something that he asked. I remember a couple years ago, I'm leading a Faith at Work Bible study for the women in my church. And I guess it was about 10 years or so ago, I work for him, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. They couldn't find
Lovely.
an intern. Yeah, they couldn't find an intern
I love it.
to serve in their work. And I work for him. And out of my mouth came, well, then I'll be your intern. And I'm thinking, I am 50 something years old.
What am I
And you
doing?
just, what is going on? And I have to tell you that it was a humbling experience. It was a wonderful experience. And what I learned from that, as you said, is that our journey is not a trajectory like that. It is this. And sometimes he will take you to places that you think, this is not worthy of me or worthy of all the knowledge, wisdom, and experience I have. Why are you putting me in this kind of position? And I think that's for me, when you're younger, you haven't experienced that yet. So you don't think that God's going to do something that is very illogical and countercultural, yet that was, for me, one of the best experiences I had. I got to see CEOs at Faith at Work in action, to hear their stories, and to absorb all of that so that the Lord could get me to the place he wanted me to be. But if I had said no, or I had said, never mind, I didn't say that. Did I just say that to be your intern?
Right.
No, I didn't mean it. If I had not been obedient, then I don't believe that he would give me the assignments that he's given me. Because for me, calling is a series of assignments. And maybe you've experienced this. He gives you something to do and you're like, what? Okay. And you do it, but you have no idea. So calling is not this big thing that automatically happens. It's a series of assignments that we're to be faithful with and obedient to in order to get to where he wants us to be.
Absolutely. It's saying yes to the next thing that he's calling you. And you're right. You have no idea. In that season, in that field, he is going to do things that will be preparing you for the next calling, for the next yes. And I think I love that you were obedient. And I think we can get tripped up when it doesn't make sense, or quite honestly, we just don't want to. Or we don't like it. Are you willing? Do you trust that he knows you better than you know yourself and is preparing the way for you? And I love there's nothing random about, as we sit here today and you're speaking to Christian leaders, CEOs, and you're drawing wisdom. Part of that journey was to be able to sit and watch and see, wow, as an intern, this is an amazing arena and I'm learning a lot here, which prepared you for where you are today. Perfect example of calling.
Which I think is a great, what you just mentioned about teachability. I find that that's one of the key aspects of leadership, is being willing to learn. And I think when we're younger, sometimes we see that as, being less than. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I feel like the older I get, the more I realize the less I know, because it's one of those things that you'll never plumb the depths of the Lord's wisdom. And he's got it all going on. And it really is true. Like sometimes I'm like, wow, have I ever read the Bible? What is happening here? I'm shocked still sometimes at his faithfulness and his goodness. And I'm like, gosh, I saw what you did there. And, but I think when you're younger, you're really, and it's a great opportunity. You're getting hard skills and things are moving fast and you're taking hold of things that are more tangible. And then when you get into some of the later seasons, you're still learning. It's a different pace. You're not doing the work weeks the way you were uh, decades ago, but I think there's still a lot of learning there. And I think I love that word teachability. It really, the Bible's very clear. And it's interesting when I was thinking about Flourish, one of the things I was very convicted about is I want to provide this for kingdom minded female executives who have a teachable spirit,
Mm.
who are open to learning and open to receiving correction from the Lord and encouragement from the Lord and from other women. So I think teachability is a big thing. The Bible's really clear on that about what the difference is between a teachable heart and a hardened heart. And that's a big deal. Are you
That can
teachable?
happen. It just occurred to me that that can happen when you're younger because of pride. And then it
Hmm.
can happen to us when we're older and seasoned because we think we know everything. Or
Correct.
right? Because we're
Absolutely.
older, right? And so I just really recently, I think over the past 2 years, embraced the fact that I can learn and I do learn for women decades younger than me.
Hmm.
And I really am astounded at some of the younger women and their wisdom and their obedience and faithfulness. And it's such a joy to
Hmm.
sit and be quiet and listen to how they see things and how they view things and their wisdom. Not, I'm the oldest, so I have all the knowledge. It's just such yeah, I've had to repent of that.
Yeah.
What do you want other Christian working women to know?
Gosh, I think more than anything that God just adores you. Like today in the mess with the 8 loads of laundry in the laundry room, not knowing what you're going to do to dinner. It's just God adores you today. He's not waiting for you to get your act together. He doesn't love a future version of you. I think that your picture is on his fridge and he adores you as much today as he did when you were born, as when you will take your last breath. And it's not about you earning your way, earning favor, earning more love. He delights in you. And I think that more than anything else, of there's so much throwing ourselves on the scales. We do it to ourselves, we do it to others. It's very difficult in a social media centric
Mm,
society as we're
hmm.
comparing and just consuming, just to be reminded I am loved today as I am.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or any other advice to the next generation of Christian women leaders?
Gosh, I think one of the things is the abiding, like in addition to like he loves you, whatever you need, he's got it. This last couple weeks ago, I thought, gosh, it's kind of like imagine a Costco and there's an endless Costco buildings go as far as you can see. And some of them have wisdom and some of them have money and some of them have peace and some of them have patience and some of them have love. Like whatever you need, he's got it. So I think sometimes we feel like we don't have the time, and I totally get it. Our calendars are crammed. It's a busy, busy, fast-paced world that female executives live in, whether you're in the nonprofit world, church world, corporate world,
Right.
whatever. But I do believe that making time to get with your father, have conversations, and ask for help and ask for resources, not in a vending machine approach where this is what I
Right.
need today, but in a fatherly approach. A father, and often we don't even really know what we need, but he knows what we need. And be encouraged, he's got it. Like sometimes I think the obstacles and the mountains can look really big. Like I have no idea how I'll get on the other side of that. And even with retreats, I have women who really can't even fathom taking a retreat because there's too many obstacles for that. And
Right.
I
You
just
bet.
encourage them, listen, just ask the Lord. If the Lord wants you
Right.
to go, he'll make a way. It's that simple. And if he doesn't, he'll tell you that. But I think that just being mindful, you're loved and he has everything you need. He's just waiting for you to ask and to spend some time with him, whether it's discerning calling or obtaining resources. He's the source.
What a wonderful place to end. Kim, thank you for your leadership and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us today. Listeners, we're going to
Absolutely.
challenge you to take something that you heard from Kim today in this conversation and apply it in your work or leadership or management this week. If you want more in-depth knowledge or wisdom, pick up a copy of Threads of Wisdom, any of the books in the series. If you need more than that, we encourage you to go to threadwisdom.com and see what the options are. Let's light a fire by passing the torch. God
Thanks,
bless your work this
Carolyn.
week.